John Ridley returns to continue his Batman mystery as he is joined by Vita Ayala and Paula Sevenbergen, who continue expanding the future Gotham in new and exciting ways, with stories about the Batgirls and a new and improved Gotham City Sirens. John Ridley headlines the book again with a fantastic continuation of his Batman story, which for this issue delves into the laws behind the Magistrate and how they are abusing them. I love seeing what has become of Chris Nakano, a big character we saw in Peter Tomasi's Detective Comics run before Future State begun, and now it seems he has been corrupted by Gotham, becoming yet another man with too much power in the city. Tanya Fox also going up against him and playing this line between protagonist to someone who wants to uphold the law, but then also some kind of antagonist who is up against the masks and up against her own son is really quite interesting, and I'm looking forward to more of that being explored in the coming issues, especially if she finds out that Tim Fox is really the new Batman. Speaking of Tim, or Jace as he likes being called, I feel like had DC not ruined his reveal as the new Batman before this issue and before Future State even begun, the panels with him removing his mask and the dialogue that he was talking about being guilty and everything would hit a lot harder, especially being the last issue and even a little bit of this issue always tried to sort of sell that it was probably Luke Fox in the cowl and not Tim. His story about the rights and wrongs of justice was really damn cool, however I liked that his Batman also wrestles with slightly harder edge crimes like rapists in the first issue and a child predator in this issue. It sets him apart from the other Batman with their respective evils and villains. I'm looking forward to seeing what else he'll be going up to, as well as what he'll be going up against after Future State ends and Infinite Frontier begins. Vita Ayala looks to expand on the resistance of Gotham seen in the Nightwing and the Robin Eternal books, and does so in a really awesome way by hitching it to a prison drama undercover spy story with Cassandra Cain and Stephanie Brown. I thoroughly enjoyed these two women sorting out all of their grievances with one another and how they went about sort of abandoning the Bat family, and as a result they come out the other side even stronger than ever. The backstory stuff was really excellent here as well, and I love the stuff Vita alluded to happening in the early days of the Magistrate's hold over Gotham, as well as the fact that all of the people in the prison are a mixture of heroes and villains like Jimmy Olsen and Jefferson Pierce, who isn't a being made of lightning here, so it's quite interesting since there's a great signpost as to when this story actually takes place, which is intriguing. Paula Sevenbergen probably delivered my favourite of the three stories in this issue with a wonderful, hilarious, and at times heartwarming Gotham City Sirens tale. I love the version of Dee Dee she created here, turning her from the granddaughters of the Joker into a robot who was abused by a tech billionaire. Her arc from abused plaything to the billionaire to a full-fledged member of the Sirens and friend to Ivy and Selena was really cool, and I enjoyed getting to know her throughout the story and getting to learn more about her. The three women conducting a heist before partying at Slam Bradley's speakeasy was a lot of fun, and again, the backstory of the world being revealed here is just wonderful and adds just that extra depth to these stories that really isn't needed, but I love that they're actually going the extra step and doing all of this sort of stuff. Laura Braga, Anneke, Emanuela Lupacchino, and Rob Hayes come together to tell three wonderful stories with their fantastic art. I enjoyed how Laura draws faces in her Batman story, giving the characters some really great emotions, specifically Tanya Fox, as well as how she draws the Batsuits, which we get a great look at through the various fights and chases Tim Fox goes on throughout the issue. Spanish artist Anneke, who has only done a handful of DC titles before this issue, really did a fantastic job, especially given with how many characters she was required to draw per panel, which is quite a lot given that the story was in a confined space in a prison. I enjoyed her paneling during Stephen Cass's fights and how the art spilled out of the panel lines, something I feel more artists should do, and I like how she utilized the page space here. Rob Hayes and Emanuela Lupacchino's Sirens work was stylish and colorful, very fitting for the three heroines. I love the designs for each of the characters as well, all who get new updated costumes, all of which were really just simple redesigns of what we've already seen. And I find it funny that in Ivy's case, to make her look a bit more futuristic and sort of modern, they just put a mesh tank top on her. But hey, it works. I really liked it. Dee Dee's design was probably my favorite out of the entire book, and it's interesting to note that her color scheme is the same as Punchline's, that sort of purple and blue color scheme. So I wonder if that was actually intentional of the in-universe creation of the character. She's meant to sort of model after Punchline, which is quite interesting. Future State, the next Batman issue 2, was another hit for Future State, with Ridley, Ayala, and Evan Bergen giving us more wonderful Gotham set stories that continue the excellent world building all of these books have been doing. The new stories and threats Batman deals with are also a highlight of this issue for me, setting him apart from the other Batman and their respective threats, and I look forward to seeing more of that from Tim Fox as we move into Infinite Frontier in the coming months. I'm going to give this issue a 10 out of 10. Future State, the next Batman issue 2, finds Batman taking to the night, knowing that while during the day, Gotham is the best with its live music, restaurants and sunsets, but after dark, murder and violence take over. He finds a man who was killed by being beaten to death, but this wasn't some robbery gone wrong. Knowing the body is fresh and spotting some CCTV cameras, Batman ditches the stealth tactics, blowing his way into the building to retrieve the CCTV footage, finding 2 hooded men beat the man to death. He notices they're wearing polygon masks to hide from facial recognition, meaning these thugs are professionals. Taking pictures of the men on his phone, Batman finds the magistrate have arrived at the scene of the break-in. He knows they have kill orders, but reminds himself that they are just private cops doing their jobs, but so is he. Batman attacks the group, taking out a bunch of them before escaping as the cops fire on him. Smashing out of the window, Batman finds even more magistrate men outside, so he deploys batarangs which bounce off the Peacekeeper's armor. Batman knows that unless he's going to kill them, he needs to fall back, so he takes off down the dead-end alley. The cops open fire and one manages to hit Jace in his side, so the hero deploys smoke. The cops advance down the dead end as Batman races out of the smoke on his bat bike, speeding out onto the street. The cops call in the Peacekeepers as Batman contacts Vol, telling them that he is uploading a video of the murderers and he needs them to look it over. He also sends them the victim's ID, wanting everything on the man to see why he was murdered. Vol gets the info, telling him that they are picking up chatter on the Peacekeepers and they are serious about the shoot on sight orders. Soon Batman is pursued by the Peacekeeper drones, knowing that they are tracking the phone, so he's got to go dark for a while, planning on tracking the murderers, and he will contact Vol when he can. Elsewhere, Tanya Fox argues with Mayor Chris Nakano over the shoot in sight laws the city has, knowing it's extremely flimsy, but Nakano doesn't care, knowing if he wanted a lecture, he would have called in one of the ACLU types to deal with this, since he thought Tanya supported the law. She says she does, since she knows how dangerous masks can be and what they have done to her family and her daughter specifically, and while they deserve to pay for it, she knows the law won't stand up to a challenge. Chris says that is why she is there, to make sure it's rock solid, but Tanya knows that she should have been employed before the law was put to paper and used by a private army. Chris says that when the old Batman was taken down, people moaned about what happened, so they want to deal with this new Batman right and have it stand up to legal challenge. Tanya knows that there is 2 problems, the first being the right to make a citizen's arrest when in the presence of a felony, and the second is the Justice Department requires officers to engage in equal or lesser force, saying a beat cop using a pistol on someone like the Joker or Punchline is fine, but the magistrate, which is a private military force, are using depleted uranium rounds and dragon's breath shotguns and killer drones, meaning there is nothing lesser about that. Nakano waves it away, saying this firepower comes from Foxtech, so maybe she should talk with her husband, something Tanya says she's done multiple times, but Nakano knows that maybe she should talk to him more, since Batman is not going to be stopped by an ordinary gun. Tanya, however, would like to give that a try, as elsewhere, Jace holds up in a shipping container at the port, waiting out the Peacekeepers who haven't been by yet. Jace knows the suit is keeping him from bleeding out, and he tries to ignore the pain, knowing he's barely been able to handle a magistrate foot soldier, so how can he possibly handle the Peacekeepers? Jace begins to wonder if he's really punishing the guilty, or just punishing himself, but he knows in reality, it's one and the same. Jace contacts Vol, telling them of the bullet he caught while escaping, hoping that they have something to go on since he's got 60 seconds before they are tracked by the new phone. Vol doesn't have anything on the victim as he was just a normal guy and the mask-wearing murderers can't be linked to any of the legacy rogues, but he used their body tracing software to match their body movements, sending their location to Batman. Vol knows that Batman is wounded and should probably not go after these people, but Jace knows that these men just murdered someone in cold blood and they will never walk away from that again since they are animals. Getting on his bike, Batman takes off as elsewhere, the Peacekeepers continue their investigation of the Batman sighting from earlier, as well as the dead man in the alley. The officers who fought Batman confirm it was indeed the Dark Knight, as Detective Chubbs reminds them that they have a dead body to deal with, not Batman. The Peacekeeper captain, however, doesn't care, knowing it's not their problem and collateral damage like that is for the GCPD to deal with, wishing her good luck since unless she's got something to do with the Bat, they aren't helping. One of the captain's men tells him of a communication that was traced to Batman, showing that he's on the move. Tells asks Chubbs how the Peacekeepers are better than masks, but Chubb tells them that good cops don't ask bad questions, they just do what they are told. Elsewhere, Batman confronts the thugs who killed the man, hoping that since he's wounded, the fear of the Bat will make them surrender, but the men attack. Batman knows that the first attacker is angry and has no skill, allowing him to easily take down the man quickly, while the other has the size advantage, but doesn't know how to use it. Batman slams the man into the ground, beating on him as the other thug unmasks themselves, revealing them to be a woman, who pleads with him to stop. Batman says that they murdered a man and the woman doesn't deny it, as the other thug is revealed to be the woman's husband, and they murdered the man because he was grooming their daughter over social media and convinced her to visit him, and she was never heard from again. Batman asks if the police investigated this, learning the man was smart enough to avoid them and the police couldn't pin anything on him or even find their daughter's body, which is when they decided to take things into their own hands, finding a man on the dark web who plans crimes for people, allowing them to kill the sick man, but then they would have to disappear. The woman hopes that Batman understands why the man needed to be punished, making Jace remember his past, knowing the guilty do need to be punished and deserve what they get. Batman, however, knows that despite the family getting justice, they still committed a murder, but their talk is interrupted by the Peacekeepers, who tell the family Batman isn't the one they need to be worried about, it's them. At the Magistrate Detention Facility in the future, a new inmate is taken to her cell as the various villains know this will be quite fun. The guard tells her that there is nothing on the woman in the system, which is impossible, but it's also the same for her roommate, and because of it, it means that she is more than worth the restraint collar she has on. The guard shoves her into the ground, telling Cassandra Cain that if she talks, she gets transferred out, and if she doesn't, the various animals of the jail will love to see her again. The guard becomes angered that Cass isn't talking, knowing that it will go smoother if she does, and he won't have to torture the information out of her about the leader of the resistance. Cass continues her silence as she is led deeper into the cells, where the guard threatens to make her supposed temporary stay at the cells longer than required, wanting to give her a few days to think about what he said. Cass is put in a cell where she learns her roommate is Stephanie Brown, who has so many questions about how the darling of the resistance landed there. Cass punches Steph in the face, making Steph warn her about getting emotional in the jail since her new friends won't take kindly to Cass attacking her. Steph goes on about what happened to her and how she's now been branded a traitor to the cause, but that doesn't matter to the government since all masks are the enemy now. She tells Cass about the jail and how it's all locked down tight now thanks to Jimmy Olsen exposing a plot to kill the captain of the guard, meaning there is a lot of bad blood and Cass being from the resistance won't make things any easier. As Steph continues to go on about if Cass and her holier-than-thou resistance are willing to go as low as they need to win, Cass asks if she's expecting too much for someone who has sunk so low to do the right thing. Steph knows that they were family when it meant something, and once a Batgirl, always a Batgirl, so Cass could ask for help and find out if Steph is willing to do the right thing. Cass, however, knows that Steph would probably betray her trust if she asked for help, so Steph offers a quid pro quo, saying that if Cass tells her how she got caught, she can get her the nullifier. Cass grabs Steph's arm, telling her not to touch her, and whatever they were once before to each other, that's all long gone. Later during rec time, Jimmy Olsen knows that if he only had his communicator, Superman would be there to rescue them as Cass joins the group, immediately becoming the topic of conversation. Cass meets with Jefferson Pierce, telling him that she has a reason to believe that Odysseus is in the prison. Jimmy thinks the being could be in what he thinks is called the Hole, something beneath Solitary. Others think he is in the literal underworld and they'll need a sacrificial goat, something Cass knows she can manage. The next day, Cass tries to start fights with Icicle and Killer Croc, but thanks to Steph's watchful eye, the criminals don't react to Cassandra's goads. Later, as Steph deals with Zaz in the laundry room, Cass confronts her. Steph wonders if Cass is now humbled enough to seek out help, but Cass plans on just going straight through Steph. The two women fight it out in the laundry room and Steph asks what's more important to Cassandra, her mission or this little tussle. Cass knows that she can multitask, smashing Steph in the back, telling the woman that she blew so much hot air at her before, but now she's trying to retreat, finding her to be nothing more than a coward. The women continue their fight, and as they battle, Steph manages to slip the nullifier into Cassandra's pocket, commenting about how she always has to do things the hard way. Cass throws Steph into a window as both are tasered by the arriving guard, told that maybe some time in solitary confinement will remind the women of their manners. Later in solitary, Cass is delivered some food, which has a hidden earpiece in it from Steph. Cassandra asks the woman through the earpiece how she did this, learning she's got some friends in high places as well as low places. Steph surprises Cassandra by repeating a code phrase from the Resistance, revealing that she is part of the group still and is in deep cover in the prison, only having acted like she betrayed the Resistance to get in. Steph says that her people heard Cass were on the way to the prison and she couldn't have her jeopardizing her cover, so she figured the best way to deal with it was for both of them to get put in solitary, having got a hold of the nullifier and put it in Cass's pocket. Cass asks what happened to the woman, learning that before she was sent to prison, Steph lost all hope when Batman died and Oracle went missing, so she went to Nightwing to set up a mission to cast a wide net around Gotham to find Barbara, and Dick agreed to let her get her hands dirty. Steph went undercover, pretending to be a criminal to get in the wrong circles, but she got caught before she could find Oracle. Steph knows that she doesn't deserve forgiveness, but hopes Cass will trust her. Cass apologizes, knowing that this whole time she thought Steph betrayed her and lied to her. Cass tells her about the messages she started receiving from someone, telling her that the Bat was alive, and she pieced together the coordinates from the messages that led her to the prison, or something below it, meaning if Batman is still alive, he's there and below them, and Steph needs to help. Steph knows that the nullifier in her pocket doesn't have much of a radius, but it's easier to not trigger suspicion while using it. She tells Cassandra not to apologize since they are for only when they can rest, but until then, she knows they need to remember that once a Batgirl, always a Batgirl. As deep below the prison, Barbara Gordon, the one who sent the messages to Cassandra, is connected to a computer bank, with her mind being used for nefarious deeds by the magistrate. Steph asks Cass what her exit strategy is, learning that she's got one chance and Steph needs to draw as many guards away from solitary as she can. Steph is taken back into the yard where she calls in every favor she can from the villains and heroes imprisoned there, rallying a small army against the guards and distracting them long enough to allow Cassandra to enact her plan to rescue Batman and Oracle. In Gotham City, Selina and Poison Ivy rob the Dilton building. Soon Selina gets bored of taking shiny things, making Pamela think that it's cocktail time. Selina hopes that she's joking, but Pamela reminds her that that was the deal. They show their new friend a wild ladies' night out and she gives them the tech that Dilton used to make the magistrates cybers, so they can figure out how to destroy them for the Resistance. Selina just wants to sell the plans, but Ivy tells her to stop being such a sour pussycat. Selina asks where Dee Dee Prime is, learning the droid has found a model that she was based on. Ivy hopes that she's okay, and Dee Dee knows that she will be okay once she gets her revenge. The alarms soon go off as Catwoman races through the lasers, wondering if the droid is setting them up, since she still could be loyal to Dilton. Ivy knows that that's not the case, but Selina thinks the woman's ideals cloud her judgment. Ivy knows that Selina is having fun with this heist and getting some jewelry out of it as well. They arrive at their exit, where Dee Dee wonders if they'll be jumping from the building, and as Ivy reassures Dee Dee, Selina does indeed jump, landing on the gargoyle below. Dee Dee and Ivy, however, use Ivy's vines to descend on the gargoyle, as below them, the cops arrive to arrest the protesters outside of the Dilton building. Ivy thinks that she may have incited a riot by leaking Dilton's connections to the cybers as well as his various EPA violations. Dee Dee's vine snaps, but Selina saves her as the woman comments about this not being like the ladies' nights she's seen on TV. An old man below is attacked by the peacekeepers as Ivy tells Catwoman to leave it be, but Catwoman knows she can't, especially not since they're just attacking an old man. The cops are now also manhandling a minor. Catwoman races down to protect the girl, electrifying her whip with the cop's stun baton, using it to electrify the man and knock him down. The remaining cop knows that she's a wanted woman and he will be there to take her in. Dee Dee, however, falls on the man, using her body's defenses to trap the man in a plasma net. The cop manages to free himself, but Ivy manages to tie him up and put him to sleep as the cybers arrive, forcing the woman to run deep into the city and to a secret place Catwoman knows of. Let into the club, Selina explains that it's like a speakeasy for supers. Ivy finds the mix of heroes and villains interesting, wondering who runs the bar, so Selina introduces her to Slam Bradley, who welcomes Selina and her group to the club, telling her that if business is good inside as it is now, things must be really bad outside. Ivy says that this heroes and villains mixing together is a beautiful thing, but Slam knows it's more of a desperate thing and the way they are being hunted is a crime, and maybe he's just helping them since he's trying to make up for crimes of his own. Ivy introduces him to Dee, who wants a drink, so Slam gets to work on a house special as Ivy and Selina talk about how impressed they are with Dee Dee and how she handled herself, saying she's got the fine makings of a Gotham City Siren. Their drinks arrive and soon Dee Dee takes off to look for more booze as two guys come over to try and flirt with Ivy and Selina, who aren't interested at all. Pamela, however, grabs Selina and points out that Dee Dee is actually flirting with someone, so glad that she's found some love after how they found her. The night before, Catwoman and Ivy sneak into Dilton's private home, looking for the cyber schematics. Selina knows that they might not give the resistance enough to find a weakness, which means no payoff for them and the strays. Ivy knows that her scientist friend could break down how toxic Dilton's tech is and publicize it, and that would help. Soon they begin to hear music, and following it, they discover a locked room, and upon opening it with a code that Ivy had, they find Dee Dee Prime, who hugs the women, having heard all about their exploits. Ivy is quick to say that Dilton sent them and they are to use his computer, as Dee Dee reveals that he's not been back for 9 days, as Ivy asks where the computer is, wanting to get the schematics. Thanks to analyzing Ivy's breathing, Dee Dee knows that Ivy is lying, knowing that she doesn't have permission. The women, however, tell Dee Dee that they want to expose Dilton's unethical practices. Dee Dee says that she could give them more information, wanting to do that as well, by giving herself up to them, wanting one thing in return, a ladies' night out. In the present, Selina wants to get on with their deal as news breaks about Dilton getting engaged to a woman who is a human rights activist, and his company is about to go public in 48 hours. Ivy knows they need to do this deal before it's too late, as Dee Dee rushes to the bathroom crying. Ivy finds the woman, learning that she is upset since she realized that she's just some experiment for Dilton's real life. She tells Ivy that Dilton was worse than they think, and Selina knows that that's why they can't waste any more time and they need to expose him before his company goes public. Dee says that she asked them for one real ladies' night out, like she saw on the TV, and the night isn't over yet, hoping the women are of their word. Selina and Ivy say they aren't always, but tonight they will be, as they leave the bathroom to dance the night away. Later, Selina and Slam play pool, but Slam leaves to get back to work. Selina thanks him for the game of pool, learning that Slam is thinking about giving up the bar and settling down in a nice house and garden. Ivy calls for Selina to dance, and Slam gets her to go and celebrate, even offering to turn up the music just for her. As the Gotham City Sirens party the night away, the cybers storm the building, gunning down Slam as well as Selina, leaving her to bleed out on the dance floor.